Attention passionate Toronto, Maple Leafs Fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the Atlantic Division and it could shake up the entire conference. We're talking about a direct impact on Toronto Maple Leafs' path to another Stanley Cup run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Toronto Maple Leafs fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with YOUR, FRINDS and Toronto, Maple LEAFS FANS. Let's get to the news. Alright folks, let's talk about what's been happening lately with the Toronto Maple Leafs, because honestly, it's been pretty interesting, and I think it sets the tone for what could be a very exciting season ahead. We all know the Leafs are always in the spotlight, whether it's for their incredible skill, their sometimes frustrating playoff runs, or the way they're constantly trying to fine-tune the roster to finally get that elusive Stanley Cup. And right now, there's a move that's got everyone talking, especially among the fans who are eager to see the team build on its recent successes, and maybe, just maybe, take that next big step towards finally hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup again. So, what's the scoop? Well, Toronto has just signed a new player, Michael Pezzetta, to a 2-year deal, and it's caught some attention, mainly because of the kind of player he is and what he brings, or doesn't bring, depending on who you ask to the table. The Leafs signed Pezzetta for $775, $0 in the first year and $800, $0 in the second year, which, let's be honest, is a pretty manageable investment for a team that's always looking to add depth without breaking the bank. Now, Pezzetta isn't exactly a household name in NHL circles, but he's a guy who's got some interesting qualities, and I'll give you the full rundown so you can understand why the Leafs might see value in him. First off, Pezzetta is 27 years old and hails from Toronto, which is pretty cool, right? It's always a nice story when a local boy makes it to the NHL, especially playing for his hometown team. That kind of hometown connection always adds a bit of extra motivation, and no doubt, for the fans, it's a feel-good story. He's a left-shooting forward, and he's of almost average size for an NHL forward. Nothing too flashy, but definitely sturdy enough to hold his own on the ice. When you look at his playing style, it's clear that he's a guy who loves to be physical, loves to get under opponents' skin, and isn't afraid to play the gritty game that can sometimes be overlooked, but is absolutely crucial in playoff hockey. Now, if we dive into what hockey analytics say about Pezzetta, things get interesting. According to HockeyViz, he's primarily classified as a fourth-line winger, which means he's often used in more defensive or energy-raising roles rather than as a primary offensive contributor. In fact, HockeyViz describes him as a bit of a black hole on offense. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means he's not going to be the guy to light up the scoreboard or rack up points regularly. His offensive impact is minimal, and in the 25 games he played last year with Montreal, he didn't register a single point. 0 points in 25 games. That's pretty telling about his offensive contribution or lack thereof. But as many of you know, sometimes a player's value isn't just in his scoring. Defense, energy, physicality, and the ability to disrupt opponents are just as important, especially in the playoff grind. Evolving Hockey suggests that Pezzetta has some defensive impacts, though nothing particularly eye-popping. He's the kind of player who can provide depth, can bring that physical presence in the fourth line, and can be used in situations where the team needs to grind down opponents or protect leads. He's not going to be a top-6 forward, and he's not expected to carry the team offensively, but he can be the kind of player who, when used correctly, can make a difference in those gritty, tough games late in the season. Let's talk about his NHL experience for a moment. Pezzetta has never played a full NHL season, which might raise some eyebrows among fans used to seeing reliability and consistency from their roster players. Last year with Montreal, he played 25 games, averaging about 6 minutes of ice time per game. That's a typical amount for a role player, enough to get a feel for how he fits into the team, but not enough to make a huge statistical impact. Interestingly, he wasn't heavily penalized, which suggests he's disciplined on the ice, a trait that coaches love for those bottom-6 roles. And he shoots the puck about as often as a defenseman, which indicates he's willing to shoot when given the opportunity, even if his scoring doesn't reflect that. Now, why would the Leafs bring in a player like Pezzetta? Well, it's all about depth. especially heading into a season where injuries, fatigue, and the grind of the playoffs can derail even the best teams. Having a guy who can step in, bring physicality, and play a responsible game without demanding a lot of minutes or offensive production is valuable. He's the kind of player who can be swung into the lineup when needed, add some toughness, and help maintain that physical edge that Toronto has been known to develop and emphasize in recent years. Of course, it's also interesting to consider what this signing says about the team's broader strategy. The Maple Leafs have been trying to balance star power with depth, and bringing in a player like Pezzetta could be seen as a move to bolster that depth without sacrificing too much in terms of salary cap space or roster flexibility. It's a low-risk, potentially high-reward kind of signing. If he fits well into the system and brings that gritty, physical presence, he could become a fan favorite for his energy and tenacity, even if he's not the one lighting up the score sheet. Looking at the team's current roster, this move makes a bit of sense. Toronto already has a core of talented forwards like Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and John Tavares, players who can generate offense at an elite level. But hockey is a game of roles, and the bottom lines often decide playoff outcomes. Teams like Tampa Bay or Colorado have shown that having those gritty, hardworking players in your bottom six can be the difference between advancing or falling short. Pezzetta's signing might be a subtle but strategic addition that reinforces that philosophy for the Leafs. Now, fans are naturally curious about how he'll fit into the existing lineup. Will he be a regular in the playoff push? Will he be used in specific matchups or situations? That remains to be seen, but what's clear is that Toronto is looking to add that element of toughness and energy, especially in a division that's tougher than ever. The Atlantic Division has teams like Boston, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Buffalo all vying for supremacy, and every team is looking to out-physical, out-hustle, and outsmart each other. It's also worth mentioning that the Leafs have been quite active this offseason, making moves to strengthen their squad in multiple areas. Whether it's signing young prospects, locking up key players, or adding role players like Pezzetta, the goal remains the same: build a team that can go deep in the playoffs, no matter the obstacles. And with the core players they have, the coaching staff seems committed to developing a balanced, versatile roster that can adapt to different styles of play. As for Pezzetta himself, it's an opportunity to showcase what he can do in a familiar environment, close to home, and in a city that's hungry for playoff success. For him, it's a chance to prove that even a player with limited NHL experience can make a difference when given the right role and the right team environment. And for the fans, it's always exciting to see a local kid get that shot, especially when he's willing to do the dirty work that often goes unnoticed, but is so vital to winning hockey. Looking ahead, it's interesting to speculate how this signing might influence the team's chemistry and performance. Will Pezzetta become a regular feature in the lineup? Will he be used as a spark plug during key moments? Or will he serve as a reliable depth player who can step in when injuries strike? The answer probably lies somewhere in the middle, but one thing's for sure: the Toronto Maple Leafs are always looking to improve, always trying to find that perfect mix of skill, grit, and depth to push them over the edge. The season ahead promises to be an exciting one, with a lot of storylines already building up. Fans are eager to see how the new additions will gel, how the young stars will develop, and whether this team has what it takes to finally get past the second round of the playoffs, something they've been striving for so many years. And with moves like signing Pezzetta, it's clear that the organization is thinking strategically, focusing on those little details that can make all the difference when the stakes are highest. So, as we watch the team gear up for what promises to be a roller coaster season, let's keep our eyes on these roster moves, on the development of the young prospects, and on how the team's chemistry evolves. Because at the end of the day, it's the collective effort, the gritty determination, and that unyielding passion for the game that will determine whether this is finally the year the Maple Leafs break through and chase that elusive Stanley Cup. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Toronto Maple Leafs news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. Now, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture for the Maple Leafs this season. The team's core remains one of the most talented in the league, with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and John Tavares leading the charge. These players are all at the peak of their powers, and they've been working tirelessly to bring a championship to Toronto. But hockey, as we all know, isn't just about star power. It's about the depth, the grit, and the ability to grind through those tough playoff moments. That's where players like Pezzetta come in, filling those vital roles that can tip the scales in close physical games. The coaching staff, led by Sheldon Keefe, has been emphasizing speed, responsibility, and physicality. They want players who can adapt quickly, who can handle different matchups, and who can bring that relentless energy night after night. Pezzetta's signing fits neatly into this puzzle, giving the team more options and more flexibility as they prepare for the long haul. And let's not forget that the Atlantic Division is no joke. Teams like Boston, Tampa, Florida, and Buffalo are all loaded with talent and grit, and every point will count in the race for playoff positioning. In terms of statistics, the Leafs have been one of the best teams offensively in recent seasons, but their playoff struggles often come down to depth and physicality. They've had trouble matching opponents' intensity in the postseason, and that's something the organization clearly wants to address. Adding a player like Pezzetta, who can bring energy and physicality, is a subtle but meaningful way to bolster that aspect of their game. It's not about flashy goals or highlight reel plays. It's about making the small plays, winning battles along the boards, and establishing a physical presence that can wear down opponents over series. And speaking of the season, the Leafs are entering it with high expectations. Fans are eager, perhaps more than ever, to see this team make a real push into the playoffs, to finally break that curse of falling short in the second round or even earlier. The pressure is immense, but so is the talent. The key will be how well the team gels, how effectively they can implement their game plan, and whether they can stay healthy and motivated throughout the grueling playoff grind. Looking at the roster, there are some promising signs. The young prospects like Matthew Nyes, who made a splash last year, are continuing to develop. The team also has a solid group of veterans who know what it takes to win. But depth players like Pezzetta can often be the difference makers when the season reaches its climax. Their role isn't glamorous, but it's critical. They are the unsung heroes who grind day after day, game after game, to make sure the star players can shine when it counts. Now, it's also worth noting how this move might influence the locker room chemistry. Toronto has been a team that emphasizes chemistry, accountability, and a collective mindset. Adding a player who's known for his energy and physicality can help foster that team's spirit, especially among the bottom six. It's about creating a culture where everyone understands their role and is willing to do the dirty work necessary to win. And from what I've seen, Pezzetta's attitude and work ethic seem to align well with the team's values. As we look ahead to the upcoming season, it's clear that the Maple Leafs are leaving no stone unturned. Every move is calculated, every signing scrutinized, and every player brought in has a purpose. Whether Pezzetta becomes a key piece or just a depth player, his signing is a reminder that this team is serious about contending. They're not just content with regular season success. They want to go all the way, and every addition is a step toward that goal. So, fans, as we cheer for our beloved team, let's keep an eye on how these new pieces fit into the puzzle. The season promises to be full of ups and downs, triumphs and heartbreaks, but one thing remains certain. The passion and hope that fuels the Toronto Maple Leafs remains stronger than ever. Whether it's a game-winning goal, a gritty fight for puck possession, or a vital defensive play, every moment counts. And with a roster that's more balanced and prepared than ever, the Leafs are showing that they're in it to win it. And now, Toronto Maple Leafs fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this latest signing? Do you think Pezzetta can bring that extra edge the team needs? Are you excited about the direction the roster is heading? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And don't forget, I'll be back soon with more updates, more analysis, and all the latest news as we get closer to the season. So stay tuned, stay passionate, and let's keep the Maple Leafs spirit alive and roaring. Thanks for being here, and as always, go Leafs go.